Hello, this is Anilamation, and in this tutorial I'll go over rigging a character with Duik in After Effects. Duik is a third-party plugin, and once we download it, it should show up right down here at the bottom of the Windows panel. In Google, I have this link which is going to be down to the descriptions also. Here we can go and download, and then we can choose the version of the computer you have. I do have a Mac. In Finder's window, inside the Downloads folder, I'll double click to extract it. Inside there should be a Script UI panels with Duik Basil script inside. In the Applications folder, inside your After Effects should be this Scripts folder, which inside should have the Script UI panels. You're simply going to click, drag and drop this Duik script version to this folder, which is going to ask you to authenticate. You need to have your password for this. If we go to After Effects, I still don't see it because we need to restart After Effects. Next, if we go to the Windows panel, we should be able to see Duik plugin. And first time you open Duik, for me is not the first time. I did try it before I started this tutorial. It's going to give you the choice to choose the language. So I already chose English and clicked Next, and then this window opens up. So if we go to this question mark here, it's going to give us the version. This is Duik Basil 2 version 16.2. Here in Illustrator, a couple of things to mention about the character design. First, you need to have the body part split into layers before bringing it into After Effects. Starting from the legs, we have cuffs, thighs, and shoes. Hands are a separate layer, the forearm, and the upper arm for both arms. I have the neck in a separate layer, head is in a separate layer. And then the body is split in three. We have upper torso, hip, and lower torso. This is the first thing, right? We need to have all of these in separate layers. The second thing important to notice is that notice the roundness that the shape is having in the end. Here, up here around the shoulders, and also the hip area is this roundness, and also the lower torso has this roundness, okay? The same here, for example, on the upper arm. There is a roundness up here and here. Also, every other shape here I've tried to maintain roughly this roundness. Now, some of them I left it like this to show you why would we do this. We want to have this roundness on the sides because we are going to create joints in Duik for rotating this character's limbs. And when the rotation happens, we don't want anything like this to show in our character. So try to have those shapes nice and round at the edges. Next, here in After Effects, I docked the Duik Basil next to the composition window view. And I'll go ahead and bring in our character. Here I need to choose to import it as a composition retaining layer sizes. This is going to bring in the composition named after the file I brought in, Joy 2019. And inside the folder, there are going to be all the layers created in Illustrator. So later on, if you'd like to re-update, to re-edit one of those layers, you can go ahead and just work on them, and you can replace it inside the rigged character without needing to re-rig your character. This is a very convenient option to have. I'll open Joy Composition, and as you can see, I have all the layers that I've created in Illustrator here, and all these layers have preserved the naming convention we created. I'll shy the pivot point layer. Also, I will delete the body layer. This was for reference in Illustrator. I don't need this here. I have split the body in hip, upper torso, and lower torso. So with all needed layers here, I can go ahead and start my rig. In Duik there is this structures panel which contains all the tools that you need for rigging your character. In the last versions of Duik, they came up with this awesome tool which is like an automated version of a whole rig at once, mostly for biped characters. So if I go ahead and click this humanoid, Duik is going to create all these structures which are split in 5 different groups. We have arms, left and right, we have legs, left and right, and we have also this body structure starting from the hip. Next, we need to match these pivot points to the joints that we have created in Illustrator. So the hip joints should be at the hip pivot point. The next structure on the hierarchy is the spine structure, and this matches with the belly button of our artwork. The next structure in the hierarchy is the spine, which matches with the chest area. Next is neck, head, and lastly is the tip of the spine bone, which is just the end bone of this structure line. Next, let's go ahead and match the arm structure to the artwork. So here I will just start with this arm, which matches with my character's right side forearm structure to the elbow of the right arm, then is the hand, and finally is the arm tip. I'll just go ahead and do also this right leg. Notice I'm starting from the base of the structures first, because if you don't, if you let's say go and start from let's say the ankle, notice the knee is not moving, but when I move the knee, the ankle goes with it. So it would be best if you start from the base root structures first and get in the way to the top of the structures. Okay, so first thigh, then knee, then I match the ankle to the ankle's pivot point. Next is the toes. Let me change these compositions color so we can see better. Okay, so next after the ankle in the hierarchy we have the toes. So I'll bring this somewhere to where the toe area is. This is the tip of the toe, which I'll place it right here. The last one is this heel, which I have to bring it right where the heel would most likely be. In this case I have a character with high heels, so I'll bring it right here at the bottom, which is kind of in the same level with the toes. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and finish the rest and show you in the end. All the structures are matched, they are organized, and they are parented to each other, nicely named with this S letter in front, which stands for structure. Now think of these structures as joints that we have placed over our artwork, but they are not linked and connected together to give us those controls which we need to animate. Next to the structures icon in the Duik window, under the links and constraints, we have this auto rig and I key that can help you with quickly creating a rig with all the I key and all the linking necessary for animating it. The way how it works is we first select all the structures and then I go ahead and click the auto rig and I key icon. Duik is working some cool stuff in the background, and in the end it gives us these controllers that we can see if we hide our artwork. So I'm gonna go ahead and just for the moment hide this artwork. Okay, so here we have this hand control. Now when you select this, we need to be careful to be able to select just the controller and not the joints. Okay, Command Z to go back. One thing I didn't mention, and I should have mentioned it from the moment that you need to create the character, is the way how I've designed the arms and the legs is best to make them be as straight as possible. So to not have them bended. The reason why you want to do this is that when we later go ahead and give this rig an automated type of animation, we get the right deformations from the start. Okay, so far we have created joints and we have linked and created controllers. We see the controllers that are created from the link and constraints tab. So all these layers which have the letter C in front, these are the ones that we are going to use for animating this character. The next step is connecting our artwork to the automated rig. I usually start from the upmost layer in the artwork layers and go all the way to the bottom. This is right upper arm. I have to match this with the joint that goes to this right upper arm, which in this case is this S arm. Then I'm gonna go down to the hand and link it to the S hand. The right forearm should be the S forearm. Then I have head, should connect to the head, neck, to neck. I'll select the upper torso and connect the spine to the hip to hip. The lower torso is going to be the spine. Okay, it's the area of the belly button. So just spine. The right shoe to the S foot. In Duik language is S foot. The right calf, it should be S cuff. Okay, so if we hide this, it's the S cuff. The L upper arm, which is the left arm. So notice Duik has this arm and arm 2. That's how the naming convention goes. Arm, in this case for my character, is the right, and arm 2 is the left. So if I select the upper arm here, I would go for arm 2, and then we have the forearm 2, left hand, which should be S hand 2, left shoe, which is right all the way here at the top. We have left calf, which is again S calf 2. Right thigh is just S thigh. And lastly, we have left thigh to the S thigh 2. I forgot the right shoe, which is the S foot. Okay, so I'm done parenting the rig to the artwork. Now is the time to test the rig. If I move this from the hip area, and this is my bird, if you wonder, I notice there is a problem. The rig is not working as it is expected. I was looking at the controllers just a bit earlier, and I found out that there is a problem at the parenting, and honestly, I don't know why this happened. I believe it's a certain type of glitch going on. So now, what is going wrong here? First of all, I have to say that this is not a common glitch, but it can happen, just like in my case. And that's good it happens, so I can show you how to fix this. It's important to know that the hip controller is at the base of all the body controllers and is the main controller for moving the whole body around, including neck and head. So just reiterating a bit here, we created joints and then we created constraints and controllers. Next we did the artwork connection. When controllers are created, these controllers have a certain parenting order that can make this rig possible to animate. As I mentioned earlier, the hip is the main controller which moves all the body of the character together with the neck and the head. The arms and the legs, they have their own controllers and they are independent from the hip. If you notice here in the layers palette, they are not parented to any rig parts, which means that they are independent. So if I move this foot controller, it doesn't have to move the body. And this makes sense. If I move this hand, this should not move the body, right? And if I move the hip should move the body. But as you can see, something is going wrong, and the idea is this. Whatever controllers are in the order along the spine above the hip area, and these controllers, they are starting from down here. This is the body control. Body control usually is not parented to anything, and in fact body control is one of those that you don't even need to see it, so you can lock it, and I would even shy it. And then we have the hip controller, which should move the whole body. The spinal root. Now the spinal root is the one above the hip, so it makes sense to parent this to the hip, which it is. And then we have the spine curve, and which is one above. Now think of it this way. This one should be parented to the next one that was below, but I see here that this is parented to the body, which is not correct. That's why we are having these disconnection and this problem with our rig. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to parent this to the spine root. Okay, so I'm going to go here, and I can do this or I can go quickly. It's even easier to parent this to the spine root. The neck should be parented to the spine curve, and I see it's not. It's again to the body. So there were two of these controllers parented to the body, which I hide it already, and it doesn't make sense why. I think that's the problem, so let's go ahead and fix this. The neck, as you can see, is closer to this other control here, which is the spine curve is called. So I'd go and parent this body neck to the spine curve instead. Lastly is the head, which is correctly parented to the shoulders and neck. Okay, and I think now this rig will work correctly. So if I grab this character from the hip area, you notice all the body is going together, which is what we're expecting. Command Z to go back. Understanding how these controllers are parented to each other, it's important in case you have some type of disconnection. You can look at the way how they are parented to each other. Before we go ahead and give this character an automated walk cycle, we need to clean up the timeline. Starting from the artwork, we want to make sure that we log these layers before we go ahead and shy them. We don't need them in the timeline. Next, the structures. We don't need to see structures in the timeline either, so we can go ahead and hide them. We can do this very quickly here from the Duik window. In the structures panel, there is this show and hide icon. So all the structures are hidden, so I'll just go and lock them. And finally, I need to shy them too. Another thing we need to do before we give this character a walk cycle is to zero out the position properties. With all the layers selected, I'm clicking on the letter P. Now, seeing these numbers, these are very complicated numbers to start an animation. Would be a good idea if we can zero these numbers. Just like in 3D applications, we usually use freeze transforms. Okay, so with all these layers selected and looking at the position property here, we can go to the Links and Constraints panel. Down here at the bottom is this 0. So if I go ahead and click on this, Duik goes all over these controllers and it zeroes them out. Now, one last thing before I forget is that I need to bring back the body controller I hid earlier. Now we're ready to give this character a walk cycle. With this layer selected, you can go to the Automations panel, and in there, go ahead and select this walk cycle. Now when we look at this animation, this walk cycle is far from great. So we are going to continue this next week. Stay tuned and go ahead and create some amazing characters and walk cycles.